The CH-47 Chinook is a cargo helicopter in service with the United States Air Force and Army. It is also used by the United States allies. The Chinook is a tandem rotor helicopter used for transporting vehicles, equipment, or personnel in war zones. The CH-47 is a tandem rotor heavy lift helicopter. It has two rotors in tandem, one in front of the other, with the back rotor being slightly elevated. The Chinook has 4 swivel wheels and a large cargo door on the back. It has a payload capability of up to 9,500 kilograms, with an upgraded version planned which would be able to carry 10,000 kilograms. The cargo bay is 9.2 meters long, 2.2 meters wide, and 1.9 meters tall. The cargo bay is large enough for you to allow 3 M422 Mighty Might Jeeps to fit in it, or 36 soldiers. In late 1956, the US Army adopted the CH-47 Mojave helicopter. The CH-47 used 2 piston engines to power its single rotor. The CH-47 was used by both the Marine Corps and the Army, and was primarily used as an assault helicopter as well as a transport helicopter. The Army received its first CH-47 in 1956, but wanted to replace it with a gas turbine powered helicopter. In 1958, a design competition was held, in which the Air Force and Army Selection Board recommended adopting the Vertol design, but they wouldn't have the funding to develop a full prototype of the design. The Army Aviation Board split on what the new helicopter was to be capable of. Some of them wanted it to be a replacement for the H-21 and H-34 helicopters, functioning as a light tactical transport capable of transporting 1 squad of soldiers, while others wanted the helicopter to be much larger, capable of airlifting artillery pieces, and able to possess an MGM-31 missile. The Vertol design was a tandem rotor helicopter design which was designated Vertol Model 107 or V107. The design was tested in June of 1958, but was determined to be too heavy to function as a light troop transport, but too light to function as a general transport helicopter. It was decided that a heavier design would be needed, while the UH-1 Huey would be modified to operate as a light troop transport helicopter. The Marine Corps adopted the V-107 as the CH-46 Sea Knight in 1962, and the Army decided that they would adopt an enlarged version of it, known by Vertol as the Model 114. The new design was adopted by the US Army as the CH-47A Chinook, named after the Chinook Indians of the Pacific Northwest America. The Chinook was in service with the United States Army from 1962 to the modern day, receiving many improvements and upgrades to keep it relevant and useful. The first major improvement was made in 1982 with the introduction of the CH-47D. The CH-47D featured many improvements such as upgrading the engines, upgrading the rotor blades, redesigning the cockpit, improving and adding redundant electrical systems, an advanced flight control system, and improving the avionics. The latest variant of the CH-47 is the CH-47F, an upgrade to the CH-47D made in 2001, with the first production model being made in 2006. The engines were upgraded and the airframe was modified so that it would be built as one piece, making maintenance easier and cheaper. The upgraded airframe also reduced vibrations and increased the lifespan of the helicopter. With a payload of over 9,500 kilos, the CH-47F can travel at 152 knots. A new version of the CH-47F is planned, known as the CH-47F Block 2. The Block 2 aims to increase the payload capabilities of the Chinook, alongside general improvements to the engine's avionics, control, and fuel capacity. The CH-47 has been used across the globe, from the US to Iran, from the UK to Australia, and it is one of only 2 aircraft designed in the 60s to remain in military service, with the other being the C-130. The first major use of the Chinook was in the Vietnam War. The Chinook was used widely by the United States for troop transport during the war. The Chinooks were often equipped with side-mounted M60s, much like the UH-1 Huey. Sometimes soldiers would even mount M60s or M2s to the cargo door. The Chinook was also often used to transport killed or wounded soldiers away from a front line. Later in the war, it became obvious to the US that the Chinook was invaluable for transporting large equipment like artillery pieces, and it soon became rarely used for troop transport. 4 CH-47s were converted into ACH-47As, attack helicopters, by adding armor and improved engines. It was mounted with 2 forward-facing M24A1 cannons, an automatic grenade launcher turret on the nose, 5 M60s or M2s, and 2 rocket pods. In the 70s, the US and Iran had strong relations, which led to the United States helping the Iranian military to modernize. This involved sending the Iranians many American firearms, planes, and helicopters, most notably the F-14 Tomcat, but also the CH-47. The Iranian military continues to use these American helicopters to this day, with somewhere between 20 and 45 Chinooks remaining operational. The CH-47 is an incredibly important helicopter in service with the United States Army. It has survived service for 60 years, and there remains no plans to phase it out. It was used to great effect across the world, from the Falklands to Vietnam, from Japan to Afghanistan.